Those thieves were more than petty criminals. Their leader gave life to the dead. What stone could they have been so keen on taking?
We can't well turn away from such an odious show of source. Let's investigate the tomb and see what answers it might reveal.
Indeed. For all we know, these dark-dealing thieves may be involved with Counselor Jake's murder.
Until we're briefed on our intended investigation, every wasted moment is an outright defiance of our orders.
Our orders say to report to our contact in Sicil, not to waste precious time outside the city walls.
Whatever's inside that tomb can wait. We've a murder to solve, and we can't allow the culprit a moment longer to cover his or her tracks.
Don't our orders also say to investigate Sicil for evidence of source? The dead rising from their graves surely qualifies.
It was Source that drove Pontius mad. Yet it is Source that has kept Nick alive to fight his old foe.
Nick may now be our ally, but make no mistake. He'd be better off dead than perverted into unlife by Source.
Perhaps he'll find some peace fighting with us against the power that perverted him.
I don't think Nick himself would agree with that. Source may be dangerous, but it's hardly pure evil.
Indeed. The Academy taught us far from all there is to know about this strange magic.
Despite any silver linings, Source is a dark storm that threatens destruction wherever it goes.
Though we are sworn to eliminate it, there is more to Source than simple evil.
That was quite the radical change we witnessed. I never would have thought that the benign old man we met outside would turn out to be a vengeance-driven aficionado of assassins.
He has been driven to madness by grief, I think. But I understand his urge to see every last one of that orc tribe dead.
As do I. His life's quest is bloody, but justified.
Perhaps. But let's just say I understand him no longer. His madness is now focused on the demise of an innocent, be she an orc or not.
He is as much a savage as those orcs. And how is Victoria guilty of her tribe's crime, if she was but a babe at the time?
She may not be guilty, but she'd have committed the same crimes had she grown up among her own kind. It's inevitable.
Indeed. Victoria probably doesn't even know about her past. And yet, she's on a, let's call him eccentric's hit list. Quite a story that ghost had to tell. Not every day one hears about a lighthouse keeper sinking ships just because his wife proved to be unfaithful.
A contemptible man if ever I met one. May hell be his eventual fate.
I don't know if I agree with that. There's no denying he did evil, but he was never been driven to desperation by the pangs of love lost.
He did commit murder with malice aforethought. Bloody execution should have been his end, but sadly he beat the law to the punch.
Aye, a pitiful creature. Torn up so badly by the loss of love that it led him to commit murder. I almost feel sorry for him.
Yes, I understand. Despite his heinous act, one can't but commiserate with his plight. Nothing more bitter than love undone.
Sorry? The man killed who knows how many innocents for the sake of a sick bout of jealousy. He's a monster.
Can you believe this? The man jumped off a cliff at the behest of some statues of all things.
Well, great deeds require the occasional leap of faith. I myself might have done the same.
And end up a stiff tangle of limbs on a forgotten beach? I prefer a measured step to a flailing leap, thanks.
True enough. History is made by those willing to risk it all.
Pure madness. How could someone be so utterly naive?
Agreed. Call me skeptical, but a little proof goes a long way for the rational mind.
Rivellon is no stranger to the supernatural. He might well have flown into the sunset and looked down at us cynics laughing.
Can you imagine risking life and limb for mere riches?
What a fool! Why court death for mere pearls?
True enough. If he'd been content with his lot, he'd be diving for pearls instead of lying in a heap.
He took a risk, yes, But what if it had worked? He'd be the richest man in Sicile.
Every tadpole aspires to be a frog. Ambition is what drives the world.
No doubt. Any risk is worth the possibility of achieving one's dreams.
Ambition may drive the world, but it drives it into a dangerous position.
So, those statues told him he'd have to renounce his earthly possessions to become a spiritual leader, did they?
Absurd. Since when is poverty a prerequisite of spirituality?
Right. I'm not going to throw my things on a pyre in the hope that the stench of my burning trousers will please an ill-defined spirit.
Some of the richest people in the world are also some of the most miserable. Gold can purchase many things, but neither joy nor wisdom are among them.
Makes sense to me. How can you explore the spirit when you're busy keeping up with the Joneses?
Indeed. He said himself that he's finally learned humility. Maybe he made the right choice, really.
And now he's begging to survive. Looks like everything went according to plan.
And so the mystery is solved. Counselor Jake was murdered by the so-called White Witch Ikara. But as it stands, I guess our next concern is Brachus Rex.
Then we know what we must do next. Pursue Leandra and stop her before she brings Brachus Rex back to life.
Agreed! If Brachus is half as dangerous as Jake and Evelyn claimed, we must prevent his ever seeing the light of day again.
Then again, our mission was to solve Councillor Jake's murder. A job well done, I say, even though I'm afraid we have no other choice but to push on.
We did what we set out to do, though. Nowhere in our orders is the hunt for an undead king mentioned.
Quite so. Our mission was to solve Counselor Jake's murder. A job well done, I say, even though I'm afraid we have no other choice but to push on.
Orders or no, if Brachus is half as dangerous as Jake and Evelyn claimed, we must prevent his ever seeing the light of day again.
That's it. Brachus Rex is dead. The way he spoke about our forebears was horrific. I wonder how many Source Hunters had to die before the Source King was deposed.
Even if it was one, it was too many. My heart shrivels in my chest when I think of the lust in his voice as he recalled his crimes.
Every inch of this source cult that we unravel is an inch of justice for those killed. Damn Brachus and all his breed. Damn them straight to hell.
A second spent mourning the dead is a second spent not avenging them. We have no time to mourn when there are sorcerers doing evil as we speak.
He was a man utterly corrupted by Source. Don't waste a moment thinking on his crimes, especially not when we have a world of work ahead of us.
How can I but think of them when he flaunted them in front of us with such glee? Let Leandra resurrect him again. I'd welcome the chance to end his life as many times as necessary.
Yes, forward is the only way we can look now. This source cult runs deeper than we dreamed. We must stamp it out before another Brachus Rex rises. Quite an important document to entrust to a stranger. With a quill and ink, one could easily alter it.
It's quite literally a golden opportunity. All we need are that quill and ink and we're in business.
Why, that's brilliant. He'll never find out if we list our own names as the inheritors of his fortune.
You can't be serious. Just because it'd be easy doesn't mean we ought to do it. We have no right to that money.
Easy but grotesquely immoral. It'd be monstrous to take any money from that widow.
Oh, get off your high horse. We have no more obligation to that widow than she has to us. We ought to take what we can get.
Agreed. Let's deliver the will in good faith and speak no more about it. According to his diary, this guy couldn't put down his dogs even after he knew them to be infected.
The sentimental fool. I guess he preferred being killed in his sleep than euthanizing his little darlings.
Could you blame him for hesitating? Those dogs hardly seemed sick after all.
Such weaknesses separate the feeble-hearted from the survivors. He earned his fate.
Who could bear to harm his best friends, especially when they only showed signs but no symptoms of turning?
He who would let infected beasts spread their sickness is a sentimental fool.
They are only innocent beasts after all, and appear to pose no threat of harm.
Is it just me, or did all that seem a bit strange to you? A magic healing stone, an apprentice keeping secrets from her master?
Yes, there was definitely something off about that pair. Perhaps they're having a run-of-the-mill squabble, but it could well be something more sinister.
Agreed. Maybe one of them knows more than they're letting on.
True, though we may well be making a mountain out of a molehill, perhaps it's best to focus our attention on more pressing issues.
Why so suspicious? They seem to get along well enough. No need for us to stick our noses into it.
Perhaps not, but I can't shake the feeling that there's more to that pair than meets the eye.
You're probably right. A little while on the job and I start suspecting everything with a pulse.
So Theleron believed that by unleashing these monsters, he'd learn the secret to resurrecting his beloved wife.
Love so complete can cloud even the best man's judgment.
Aye, in Theleron's position, I'd wager many of us would do the same.
Love is no excuse for committing an act so very dire.
Only a true devil would cause such destruction for a bit of fancy necromancy.
A devil? I'd wager many in Theleron's position would do the same. There's no reasoning with a heart-sick soul.
He'd feed Cecile to the hellhounds in the name of ripping his beloved soul from the afterlife and trapping it in a mortal corpse. Disgusting.
And so, Sam's story has a happy end after all.
There was quite a bit of troubled water to be crossed, but in the end, Maxine turns out to really love him.
So she does. They would have ended up together no matter what, I think, collar or no.
Does she, though? She said yes the instant she saw the jewels in his collar. If it weren't for his wealth, she wouldn't have given him the time of day.
It wouldn't have if we never found that collar. Maxine only agreed to marry him because he is rich now.
I'm afraid you're right. She's quite the little gold digger, that mayor's cat.
What a cynical thing to say. She loved him all along, but was worried about the children they might have. That's quite another matter.
Well, there we have it. 2 dead legionnaires.
They deserved it, the cretins.
Don't be so soft-hearted. The thrill of the kill, there's nothing like it.
I think you're right. We had no real reason to kill them, and yet we did. In cold blood.
This feels wrong. We really shouldn't have.
I'm not so sure anymore. It was a wicked thing we did.
Right you are. I'll not shed tears for the likes of them.
That's it. We've consigned a once mighty king, our ally, to live out eternity as a demon's plaything.
It was he, not we, who made a deal with that demon. Jehan sealed his fate 10 centuries ago.
It is no pleasure to watch him suffer, but this was a matter between Jehan and Balbrith. We had no right to interfere.
Any man with death's fingers at his throat might have done the same. Jehan deserved better than this.
We ought to have done better by him. Deal or no, Jehan was our trusted friend.
A trusted friend, yes, but this was a matter between Jehan and Balbrith. We had no right to interfere.
We failed him when he needed us most. Now the lot of us must suffer the consequences.
Quite the tragic ending for the last surviving villager of Hunter's Edge.
We ought not to have pushed him. These conditions had clearly driven him to the edge.
This isn't the first time an innocent has fallen in our wake, but let it be the last.
Better to see him driven mad before us than to let him snap while our backs were turned.
It was inevitable. We couldn't risk allowing him to target us further, despite his unenviable fate.
Blame these orcs for driving him mad. We were merely caught, regrettably, in the aftermath of their savagery.
Inevitable? We could and should have left him be. It was our pressing that drove him over the edge.
Could it be true, the rumors? That to enter the Phantom Forest means certain death?
There's more to such tales than words. We ought to turn back.
We've made it too far to let hubris undo us now. We ought to turn back until we learn more about this place.
Rumours cannot harm us. We mustn't let stories hinder our mission.
Nonsense. There's nothing in the Phantom Forest we can't face.
Weapons at the ready, and onward we go.
Better to learn more from a safe distance while we can. There's no sense in rushing in only to find our journey and our lives at an abrupt end.
What a tale that was. A cat turned human, soon swept into all kinds of misery for all his troubles.
He has lived through the worst humanity has to offer, but at least he briefly knew love, the best.
Agreed. Perhaps one day he'll love again, and see there's value to be found in being human after all.
Nevertheless, he has blundered dreadfully, in my opinion. The love you talk about has led to a lich's freedom, and now it's up to us to face her ghoulish music.
Just goes to show no animal should be given the brain of man. Look at what he caused by aiding Cassandra, a forest of death and depravity.
We can handle Cassandra. I merely hope that one day Arhu will love again, and see there is value to be found in being human after all.
Yes, he has blundered dreadfully, hasn't he? He set a lich free, and now it's up to us to face her ghoulish music.
And so we got our hands on Stasis Fern. Now to decide what to do with it.
When the time comes, we should give it to Arhu so he can become a cat forever like he wishes. Cassandra is not to be trusted anyway.
Indeed. If Arhu wants to be a cat forever, so be it. He is our friend, and we shouldn't leave him in Cassandra's horrid care.
I'm inclined to disagree. Who would you rather side with after all? A caged cat or an immortal lich?
Cassandra wants it, and Cassandra will get it, I say. We need that Soul Forge spell.
And we'll get it one way or another. But Arhu is our friend, and we shouldn't leave him in Cassandra's horrid care.
Quite right. Who would you rather side with after all? A caged cat or an immortal lich?
The trial of ascension is behind us. Do you feel quite ascended?
Enlightening indeed, and now I'm eager to move forward.
An interesting moment of reflection in the midst of our journey indeed.
Enlightening? Ha! What a bunch of pointless busy work that was.
Of all the worthless diversions, I thought this was supposed to be a legendary source temple.
Let's hope whatever comes next is grounded firmly in the reality before us.
It's only worthless if you fail to find the value in it. I, for one, found it enlightening.
Blast! Leandra is a few steps ahead of us yet. I think we can safely guess it was she who used this path and broke the mirror behind her. We'll have to take the hard way through the temple.
Onward, then, to the trial of ascension. We'll make short work of it.
There's nothing we can't overcome now. Nothing in all of Rivellon.
Let's not be hasty. We ought to approach what lies ahead with utmost caution.
What lies ahead is sure to be treacherous. We may not make it out alive.
We must be cautious. Who knows what lies within this temple of Source?
Nonsense. There's nothing we can't overcome now. Nothing in all of Rivellon.
Yet again, Leandra disabled Zandalor, but did not kill him. Perhaps there's hope she may be redeemed.
A seed of humanity still lives within her. Perhaps it may yet grow.
And that seed might well be the key that ends this madness.
There's no excuse for what she's done, but at least we've found proof that she's not completely resigned to the undoing of existence.
So she let him live. What about the hundreds she's killed, directly or otherwise?
You have a point. Sparing one man hardly makes up for the slaughter of countless others.
Any humanity she had died along with the many she'd murdered. Leandra is far, far beyond redemption.
Finally, he is dead. The trickster, the instigator, is no more.
Astarte's tormentor lies dead at our feet. One day I hope to hang its head over my mantelpiece.
Let this be the fate of all who oppose our existence. They must cease to exist so that we may be.
And yet, even this galling creature but followed its instincts. same as we.
Perhaps, if he is lucky, death is indeed a void, and he'll have what he desired.
After all, even this galling creature but followed its instincts. Same as we.
I don't care in the least what awaits those who oppose our existence. They must cease to exist so that we may be.
Another innocent has fallen.
Innocent? Ha! Consider it target practice, for there isn't a true innocent in all of Rivellon.
True. During times as dangerous as these, all civilians are guilty until proven otherwise. Fair game, I say.
Target practice? What kind of lunatic could see a living soul as such?
A terrible tragedy. We should watch our weapons more closely in the future.
Indeed. The people here have been through enough without their protectors turning on them too.
Civilian losses are unavoidable. Focus less on mourning the dead and more on seizing victory.
That doesn't belong to us, you know.
We're source hunters. We should be able to access any of the resources we need or want while we're on the job.
Well put. Hunting out source is no easy job, and we need all the help we can get our sticky fingers on.
Other people's possessions don't count as resources we can seize at our own discretion.
You're right, it doesn't. Sometimes I get a little overzealous while I'm on the job.
Happens to the best of us. More than a few temptations accompany authority, no?
Overzealous? No such thing when it comes to sniffing out sorcerers. I say we ought to be able to take and use whatever will make our job easier.
Another starstone, another piece of ourselves, perverted toward Leandra's will.
These stones may be valuable to us, but they are not us ourselves. Leandra cannot stop us from hunting her down.
Who knows what untold terror her bloody work might be wreaking on our memories. The more bloodstones she makes, the farther we are from undoing what she's done.
Nothing Leandra might do could shake our identities. We are source hunters. Our job is to destroy that which would harm Rivellon.
Soon she'll have desecrated our very souls. We've got to end this, and soon.
Who knows what untold terror her bloody work might be wreaking on our memories? The more bloodstones she makes, the farther we are from undoing what she's done.
Nothing Leandra might do could shake our identities. We are source hunters. Our job is to destroy that which would harm Rivellon. We've solved the murder and caught the culprit, yet this case feels anything but closed.
There's more to this crime than simple fact. Killing a killer is hardly the same as killing an innocent, after all.
We'll have to learn more before we can assess Akara's true guilt in this matter. Fortunately, she seems quite eager to tell us more about this entire dark affair.
Who was she to rank the life of the wizard over that of Jake? This is a cut-and-dry case of murder, I say.
The witch killed the councillor. Murder is murder, and that's all there is to it.
Hardly. We've killed in self-defense, and I'd wager we'll do it again. Guilt rests in the details, I say.
Fortunately, the witch is now in our custody. We'll have to deem where and when to mete out justice.
So that is who we were. Demigod guardians of the God Box.
Demigods, immortals! I like what I'm hearing.
As do I. We were beings of supreme importance once. Who's to say we cannot be again?
You stand alone in that opinion. Even gods can die, and from what we've seen here in this realm, little good came from being half divine.
That is not who we were. That is who they were. The ones that hijacked our souls.
I reckon you're right. Besides, even gods can die. And from what we've seen here in this realm, little good came from being a half-divine.
We weren't hijacked, we were chosen. Indeed, we were beings of supreme importance once. Who's to say we cannot be again?
A second soul? Do you think it could be true?
Why not? You don't have to convince me there's something infinitely great innate to my being.
Ha! Yes, just look at the events we've set in motion. Our souls are meant to soar, and they'll soar yet.
I myself don't believe a word of it. That historian has lost more marbles than I have souls. That much I assure you.
His theories are nonsense. I am who I am, and no other soul is sharing joint custody with my body.
Quite right. That historian has certainly lost more marbles than I have souls. That much I assure you.
Come now, just look at the events we've set in motion. Our souls are greater than ourselves. They are meant to soar, and they'll soar yet.
We were seduced, then tricked into neglecting our duty for the briefest of moments.
All we did was glance at one another. If that's a sin, there's not an innocent in all the world.
True enough. We seem to be quite blameless for whatever may have transpired in the aftermath.
That box contained the Void Dragon. Nothing should have distracted us from guarding it.
Tricked, seduced, excuses for failure. It was our duty to guard the box, and we faltered.
Indeed, but perhaps it isn't too late to set right what we've wronged.
If a goddess ventured to make us falter, we can hardly hold ourselves accountable for trusting her.
We may have been tricked into allowing Astarte to open the God Box, but we fled when faced with the Void once more.
What cowards we were! Let us only pray we still have time to undo our mistakes.
To think that all this chaos was unleashed by our foolishness.
How could we have known what was to come? We were simple sentinels by then, and ones with faith in Astarte to boot.
Who wouldn't have fled from such a terrible sight? Who could blame us for that?
I blame us for that. We were guardians, protectors. We should have stood with Astarte, not fled like cowards.
No one in their right mind. This mess falls squarely on the Trife's shoulders, not ours.
So the souls within us intentionally tore themselves from the tapestry of time.
Perhaps it was the only honourable thing to do after the tragic opening of the God Box by Astarte.
Duty is honor, and honor is duty. I can understand their not being able to live with having failed to protect the God Box.
Honourable? Try weak. They could have tried to make amends, but no. They just had to obliterate themselves.
And look what happened. They killed themselves in the most thorough manner possible, only to bring more grief through Starstone.
It was a show of weakness indeed. They could have tried to make amends, but no. They just had to obliterate themselves.
Still, duty is honour, and honour is duty. I can understand their not being able to live with having failed to protect the God Box.
At least Zigzag seems to think we Guardians aren't utter failures.
Bless his heart, for he is right. Doubt is not a blight, but a blessing.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, I'd go so far as to say we didn't fail at all. That may have been the God's conclusion, but it isn't mine.
Does a blessing lead to the escape of the Void? Does a blessing fall prey to demons? Sounds like blights to me.
I don't know if I agree with him. If doubt can so easily lead to manipulation and misfortune, is it not better to forswear it, to obey?
I'm inclined to answer yes. Such feelings clutter the heart and pull veils in front of our eyes. They are a burden that have led us to the very brink of destruction.
Not at all. Our doubt is what has destroyed us. Brave acceptance of our duty. That would have been the truly honorable course of action. Not but a moment ago we were hunting Source in Rivellon, and now we're being told that we alone can prevent the end of time by way of some magical stones. What do you make of it?
We can't deny our reaction to Starstone. There must be something to all of this, mad as it may seem.
No matter how improbable, anything is possible. If the Weaver tells the truth, we have some serious work ahead of us.
Still, it's quite a leap from finding a strange stone to placing the world's salvation on our shoulders.
Say what Zigzags and the Weaver will. I need more evidence before I'll buy into this wild tale.
Spot on. Praise be that we at least are still capable of rational thinking. We seem to be the only ones in the insane asylum at the end of bloody time.
No matter how improbable, anything is possible. If the Weaver tells the truth, we have some serious work ahead of us.
Who would have thought it? Jehan, an all-powerful king, stricken by a horrid plague, the memory of which plagues him still.
No wonder. From the sound of it, he was at death's door.
The higher your station, the deeper you may fall. He may live, but clearly Jehan is a king no longer.
Still, for someone enjoying so much love and wealth, he does make a great big fuss about being a bit under the weather.
He's all right now, isn't he? Methinks I spy a hypochondriac.
Have a little sympathy. The higher your station, the deeper you may fall. He may live, but clearly Jehan is a king no longer.
And then some. For someone enjoying so much love and wealth, he does make a great big fuss about being a bit under the weather.
Well, well, well. So our very own demon hunter once dabbled in the so-called darkest of arts himself.
A man so utterly betrayed and dying will grasp at any straw. I can hardly blame him.
Neither can I. Clearly his great love was almost the very death of him. She broke his heart in more ways than one, and I too would go to any length to repair it.
But I can. No matter the circumstance, I simply cannot abide a hypocrite.
Demon hunter? Imposter, more like. All his talk of demons has been nothing but double-faced falsity.
You hit the nail on the head. No matter the circumstance, I simply cannot abide a hypocrite.
A harsh assessment. Clearly his great love was almost the very death of him. She broke his heart in more ways than one. Wouldn't you go to any length to repair it?
What a life it is that Jehan has led. Like listening to a great tragedy. A tragedy that is about to come to an end.
To an end, yes. A tragedy no longer. There's time yet to slay that demon and save Jehan.
Indeed. Balbrith be damned. Jehan has source hunters by his side now.
Perhaps, though I'm in no particular hurry. If Jehan has made his bed with demons, he may well have to lie in it.
If that is how it must be, so be it. Jehan must reap what he has sown.
Agreed. If Jehan has made his bed with demons, he may well have to lie in it.
Nonsense. Balbrith be damned, I say. Jehan has source hunters by his side now, and we shall not disappoint him.
So unless I'm very much mistaken, we just paid a courtesan to cheer up a lonely troll.
What's wrong with that? The fellow needed cheering, and that's what she'll do.
When you put it like that, I guess you could say we performed an act of great kindness.
Still, I don't feel quite comfortable about all this. Frankly, it creeps me out.
Yeah, I guess we might have overstepped the mark there.
And then some. Perhaps we should go and check if she's doing okay.
Did we, though? Who's to say they won't get along swimmingly? I tell you it'll work out for the best.
That skeleton believed its soul would live on in the Hall of Echoes.
And so it likely will. How terrible to have but one short chance at life.
Indeed. Perhaps we'll meet these souls again when we move on to the Hall of Echoes ourselves.
The false promise of a second life is hardly necessary for one who spends the first well enough.
Doubtful indeed. The afterlife is a fantasy, plain and simple.
That it is. A life well lived is its own reward.
And so the soul simply vanishes into thin air, never to be heard from again? I find that image hard to swallow.
Oh, what a mess we made! Nothing could have survived that blast.
I feel kind of bad about it now. What a horrid way to go.
So it is. We shouldn't be so frivolous in the future.
Don't be so squeamish. Most likely we averted a battle to the death anyway.
Ha ha! Yeah, a satisfying explosion it was. Totally worth it.
And then some. Let's see if there are more explosives to be found.
Was it, though? Such wanton violence. We made a mistake, and a grave one, too. Strange. Something here seems to be interfering with our teleporter pyramids and waypoint rune. If we go much further, we may not be able to escape again.
We can take on whatever comes our way. Onward!
Damn those magical relics! An iron will is enough to face whatever may come.
I can't shake the feeling that we're walking into some kind of trap, and I, for one, don't want to trigger it without an escape plan.
Perhaps we ought to turn back. Whatever is interfering with our transportation objects might have ill effects on us, too.
Indeed. I can't shake the feeling that we're walking into some kind of trap, and I, for one, don't want to trigger it without an escape plan.
What? Never! Damn those magical relics! An iron will is enough to face whatever may come!
So, Frederick won't be able to reclaim his imp after all.
Too bad. Frederick will never avenge the wrong done to him.
Be that as it may, Frederick was that imp's legal master. It had no right to run off.
And who will avenge the wrong done to the imp? One little tumble off a cliff isn't enough to make up for a lifetime of enslavement.
And a good thing, too. Anyone willing to own a slave is the last who should be put in charge of a sentient life.
Yes, perhaps now that imp will get a taste of freedom, of real living.
Too true. Hopefully, the imp will get his due comeuppance some other way.
I don't know what I was expecting, but all that seemed a little abrupt.
That little turncoat deserved it. He blatantly attacked his master, after all.
Violence is violence. If the imp didn't want to meet a violent end, he shouldn't have pushed his master off a cliff.
An eye for an eye. That imp only got what he gave.
It doesn't feel right, does it? Who could blame someone from rebelling against his enslaver?
It's a basic instinct to rail against the person who enslaves you. None can fault the imp for desperately seeking his freedom.
Yes, it's sad and shocking that Frederick is well within his rights in killing that imp.
So, this is it. After all we've discovered, after the battles we've won, I think it really is over. What do you suppose we should do now?
I'd say we more than deserve a little rest and relaxation, considering what we've been through.
How right you are. How is a sunny beach and a cold drink sound to you?
And let our enemies cut us down while we sleep. Ha! Onward, I say, against all the realm's evils.
The void may be caged, but the rest of the realm's villains remain. Rivellon has need of us yet.
Onward, against any and all the realm's evils.
As for me, I'd quite like to heed the call of a sunny beach and a cold drink.
Of course I do. How could someone in my profession not?
Quite right. Adventure is what we live for.
Some could not because they are professionals, not adventuring daydreamers.
I'm here to do my duty, which is hardly the same as adventuring.
Agreed. Adventuring implies frivolity. Duty does not.
So you mean to say we do not live a life of adventure? We don't do anything else all day long.
Yes, some extra gold is always welcome.
Well, I can't say that I haven't.
And I can't say that I have. I'm content with what I have.
Riches do not interest me much, actually.
Nor me. Wealth is but vanity.
Really? I wouldn't mind earning an extra penny here and there.
It's better to lead than to follow. That much is true.
Better to be served than to serve, I concur.
I disagree. I, for one, am content with my station.
There's no shame in following directives if your masters are worthy of your trust.
True enough. We serve a just cause, so why wouldn't we follow our orders?
You'll always stay menial with that attitude. Just what those trusted masters want.